Welcome to Gavel. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. We're very honored to be back in the studio for our 9th installment of Gavel with our partners here at TV 23. Gavel is a show about the criminal justice system in Cobb County, a system that remains a mystery to most folks. What we try to do on this show is educate our viewers and our citizens of Cobb about the criminal justice system and how it may affect them during the course of their lives. In past shows, we've had an occasion to take a look at how the juvenile court works, what happens if you're a victim of a crime, what happens in other functions and areas of our criminal justice system. In the future, we're going to be taking a look at what happens if you're called for jury duty, or what happens if a loved one or someone you know happens to be on probation, something that may affect you or a member of your family during the course of your time of living in Cobb County. Today, we're going to take a look at another very interesting part of our criminal justice system in Cobb, and that's the Cobb Magistrate Court. It's a very busy court, and I'm very honored today to have as our guest an individual that can help us learn a little bit about the Magistrate Court, and that's our Chief Magistrate, Judge Joyette Holmes. Judge, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your hospitality here this morning.
Well, you're very welcome. Why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, what your history is, and how you've become our newest Chief Magistrate Judge.
Well, thank you. I grew up in Valdosta, Georgia. That's where I was born and raised, after which I went to the University of Georgia and majored in psychology and criminal justice before deciding to go to law school. After I graduated from law school, I practiced in Maryland. My husband and I lived in Maryland for a while, so that's where I started my legal career. I worked clerking for a judge as well as working in the public defender's office. And if you know anything about Baltimore, it's a very busy jurisdiction with a lot of work, so you're definitely thrown in and got to learn a lot there. Now, my husband's home is here in Cobb County. He was born and raised in Smyrna, attended Campbell High School. And in attending Campbell High School, you know, he always loved it here. Fortunately, he was able to get a job in Maryland. That's why we moved there. But moving back home was just a natural thing. And so we made Cobb County our home, and I went to the solicitor's office and worked for Barry Morgan in the solicitor's office before opening my own practice, the law office of Joyette Holmes. During that time, I had the opportunity to work with a number of different people and was certainly blessed to have the opportunity just to see Cobb County at its finest and how the different court systems worked here. After that, I went to the DA's office with yourself. I had the privilege to work under you as an assistant DA before getting the call to go to the magistrate court. And I tell you, that has been a tremendous blessing.
Well, certainly I know you personally, and I know your background, and as you just explained to the viewers, you have a very varied background, which I always believe helps make a better judge. And you said you had a moment to work for Barry Morgan. He's been a guest on this show. He's a friend, and we know the kind of job he does in Cobb. And of course, I was very honored to have you as part of our staff in the DA's office, and we're certainly very proud of you as being the newest Chief Magistrate. Tell the viewers, if you would, how does one become the Chief Magistrate? What's the process, and what you went through, and where you're at today, and what the future is as far as you're concerned about staying as Chief Magistrate?
Right, okay. Well, the Chief Magistrate position is an elected position. It comes up on the ballot every 4 years. Due to the retirement of my predecessor, there was a position open that left the opportunity for the 10 Superior Court judges to appoint someone to take that position for the balance of the term. So along with, I believe it was 28 others who applied for the appointment, I was appointed and elected by the Superior Court judges here in Cobb County to take that position. So my position currently runs to the end of 2016. The election of 2016 will place me on the ballot during the primary, which will be held May 24th of 2016. Having been in the position now for 6 months, it has been a wonderful experience. The people, the staff of the Magistrate Court do a great job helping the citizens of Cobb County handle all the business that's necessary for them to handle in the Magistrate Court. So it's been an awesome opportunity. I do wish to stay in the Magistrate Court and ask the citizens of Cobb County come May 2014 May 2016, to vote me in.
Well, good. We certainly hope that'll happen, and we're very confident that it will. And I know Her Honor is a little humble. There were close to 30 folks who qualified for that position and who put their name in, and the Superior Court judges chose you over those individuals. There were a lot of fine, qualified people in there.
Absolutely.
But we're confident they made the right choice. So,
well, thank you.
let's talk a little bit and educate our viewers a little bit about the interesting history behind the Magistrate Court in the state of Georgia, how it came about, and a little bit of historical perspective on that court, if you would.
Oh, I will. Well, the Magistrate Court used to be known as the Justice Courts or the Justice of the Peace Courts until 1983, when the Georgia Constitution was changed and those was ratified under those changes. So at that time, the Magistrate Courts of Georgia were formed, and the way in which the Justice of the Peace handled business changed somewhat. Now, there was always limited jurisdiction within the Magistrate Court, and it handled smaller matters. We have 159 counties in the state of Georgia. Magistrate Court, along with the probate courts, were the courts where there was someone always there. And when there was a need of the citizens, there was somewhere for them to go, as opposed to the Superior Courts and those counties that have state courts. If they worked in circuits, they weren't always there. So the Magistrate Court helped the community to handle the business that they needed to handle in a quick time. Now, with that change to the Magistrate Court as well, it certainly, at that time, a lot of the jurisdictions, and some still are, run by non-attorneys. The metro area counties and a lot of the bigger counties are only attorneys who are acting as magistrates and or chief magistrates, though some of the rural counties still do have non-attorney magistrates in those counties. But that's a little bit about the history, and the courts are continuing to grow and continuing to serve people in many different areas.
Well, you know, it's an interesting court. I know we in the business, in the criminal justice system, have frequently referred to the Magistrate Court as the People's Court,
right,
where the rubber hits the road. And I don't know if as close as you and I are, I don't know if I've ever had the occasion to tell you my father was a Justice of the Peace.
Oh,
and
no.
so I'm familiar with that court system. Let's talk a little bit about what type of cases in the modern day Magistrate Court would you handle, so the viewers will know what to expect if they ever find themselves in your court?
Okay, and you called it the People's Court. It's absolutely that. Sometimes we also refer to it as the emergency room because we triage a lot of things that then go out to the different courts. So on the civil side of the Magistrate Court, we have small claims court. And those small claims, they can't be cases in which you are asking for more than $15,000. So we handle cases that come in under that threshold. We also do dispossessories, or people know them more as evictions, landlord-tenant matters. Those evictions come into the court where the landlord is asking, for one reason or another, that somebody be removed from a home. Tenants also file counterclaims a lot of times saying, well, I didn't pay because the property wasn't in a condition that I could live there, that I could have quality of life in that place. So people come for those as well. We handled abandoned motor vehicle cases. A lot of times those comes from tow yards or mechanic shops where people have brought their cars or their cars have been brought there and never returned for them. So they are asking for the property in the way of a foreclosure so that they can recover the money for the storage fees that they've had over time. We have a bad check program. Not all people who write bad checks are intentionally doing those things. So there is a program that allows people to make good on those checks before it would go into any criminal arena. We do have a lot of criminal matters that we handle in the Magistrate Court as well. We are the first point of contact for officers when they're looking to arrest. They do have to come to our court to seek arrest warrants and search warrants in cases where there are other items that need to be recovered to make a case. What a lot of people don't know about that aspect is that the court runs 24 hours a day. We have a magistrate and clerks who are there around the clock to make sure that they can handle the call of the officer for those warrants, as well as civilian contact that comes through the court. Civilians come in all times of day and night, requesting warrants for different reasons. And then it will be set on what's called a pre-arrest type calendar or a warrant application calendar. We do the first appearance at the jail. So when someone, an arrest warrant has been received and someone is arrested and placed into custody, they have to go before a judge within a certain amount of time. So we make sure that that's done by working with the sheriff's office to have first appearance calendars and have those calendars come up quickly. In the magistrate court, we also do probable cause and bond hearings. So people want the opportunity to come in and say, you know, I don't think the officer had enough to have arrested me. And so we have hearings on those and reconsider bonds at that time as well. There's just a lot that goes on in the magistrate. It is a busy court, and it's going on all the time. It never stops.
Let me go backwards a little bit before we talk about the criminal aspect and ask you a quick question about the representation of folks in there. You indicate that you have small claims for $15,000 and under, some dispossessories. Are people required to have a lawyer with them, Judge, when they go in magistrate court?
They are not required to have a lawyer, and a lot of times they do not, for the simple fact that there's so little that they're asking to get out of it that it's in their minds defeats the purpose to have someone come in to pay and assist them. You know, certainly there are issues that I think anyone should have an attorney to help address those issues, but we know that it's not always possible.
Well, that's a good thought and a good impression to leave on the folks about magistrate court. We're going to take a little break, but what I want to do is hold that thought about some criminal hearings that you have, and I want to ask you some questions about it in just a moment, but we'll take a short break now. We'll be right back after this short message. Stay tuned to Gavel to Gavel. Thank you.
Son, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Gavel. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds, and we're very honored today to have as our guest Cobb's Chief Magistrate, Judge Joyette Holmes. Judge, before we took our break, we were talking a little bit about what type of work or cases that you see in magistrate court. And before I move into the criminal cases, I wanted to ask you one more question about the civil cases. You've explained to the viewers that it's not necessary to have an attorney. Certainly you may be better served by having one, but it's not necessary. If people do not have a lawyer representing them in some of the cases, are you and your staff able to provide legal advice to those people if they don't have lawyers?
We are not. Most of the staff, including the clerks and the admin, they are not attorneys. And certainly even the staff members who are attorneys cannot give legal advice to parties that come before the court. So citizens cannot come to the court to ask questions regarding what they can do. Only procedural questions will be answered by our staff.
All right, thank you. Let's move into the area that affects what I do and affects a lot of people in the system, and that's your involvement in the criminal cases that may come through Cobb County. You told our viewers a moment ago that police officers go there to your office, see your judges to obtain warrants. Can you give the folks, if you have any numbers, can you guesstimate, or do you know approximately how many warrants y'all may do during the course of a 12-month period of time? Like last year, do you know how many you may have issued?
I don't have those numbers specifically. In terms of the caseload that we handle overall, we probably would look to do about 48,000 cases
Wow.
this year. Now, of course, that's not just the warrant cases. Those include small claims matters, dispossessory matters, garnishments, and other things that we handle in our court. And just speaking in terms of that before moving to the criminal matter, since 2009, our numbers have significantly jumped. They may have been about 2,800 back in 2009 and increased to that 28,000 that will likely hit the 48,000 or so this year. Changes in the law absolutely affect magistrate court like they do other courts. And one of those big changes in 2011 was the filing of dispossessory cases. Court filing fees in other courts went up significantly, and they didn't go up in magistrate court. So we went from, at that time, probably 2,200 garnishment cases up exponentially from that time period. So that has definitely increased the work that we do in the magistrate court, and our staff has definitely moved to accommodate those increases.
Well, I know just in our office, just in the district attorney's office, you all send us close to 5,000 warrants a year. That's not even misdemeanor cases. Those are just felonies. So I know it's a very busy court. And it's amazing to me, and I want the viewers to make sure that they realize this, that you're literally, the door never closes in magistrate court. And not only is it open, there's a magistrate judge there during the morning hours, all night, all day, who can talk to officers and citizens as they come in with questions and issues. Isn't that correct?
They do. We are fortunate to be able to be accessible to the community. Certainly the citizens want a safe community, so having the opportunity to have officers be able to do their job 24 hours a day and citizens to feel protected 24 hours a day when they can come up and request some of the same things. Certainly, you know, a lot of cases are best made and are always going to be directed to the police precincts when necessary. We certainly do not take citizen calls for aggravated assaults, murders, robberies, any of those high-end crimes. They're usually disputes between neighbors or family members within the house, or maybe a loss prevention officer from a local retail store may have that opportunity to come in.
Let's talk a little bit about what happens to a case. Let's say that an officer comes in, sees one of your magistrates, a warrant is issued for a particular charge. Obviously, the case doesn't stop there. Explain to the viewers what may happen to that case after one of your folks has issued a warrant for someone's arrest.
After a warrant is issued, depending on where the case may go, it will come back to us for that probable cause or bond hearing that I talked about. If I find that there is probable cause in a case, if it's a felony offense, that case is then bound over to the Superior Court. Those Superior Court judges will then hear the case over there. If it's bound over as a misdemeanor, it will then go to the solicitor's office and to the state court judges to hear and make determinations. Some of those cases go through the formal charging process before it even gets back to me for that probable cause or preliminary hearing. And those formal charges may be in terms of a grand jury indictment or an accusation that's put forth by an assistant district attorney or assistant solicitor. And then those cases will be done in the magistrate court. Now, I say done, it's almost never done. We also have a pretrial division within our court. So if there are people who have gone through the process and there's a reason why they remain out of custody pending their case, then our pretrial division may supervise that person while they're out on bond. It's certainly the role of any judge, and certainly in my position as chief magistrate, to make sure there are certain safety measures in place when when somebody is released from custody. And some of those require supervision, not all, but we do have that division who will supervise even when the case has been formally charged in either the state or Superior Court.
Let's chat a little bit about the makeup of your court. Obviously, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and doing over 45,000 cases of some sort a year. You can't do it by yourself.
Right.
Tell the viewers, if you would, a little bit about the makeup of the magistrate court, including staff numbers and things of that nature.
Sure. I have 65 staff members, and that's inclusive of myself, one other full-time magistrate, and 13 part-time magistrates. In addition to the judges that help us handle the calendars, we have a clerk's office run by our clerk of court and divided into two divisions, our civil division and our criminal division. Because a lot of those calendars do, of course, take in fines or filing fees, we have an accounting division as well. They direct not only those fees that are filed, but the garnishments that may have to be recovered and sent back out to whoever is garnishing the account based on a judgment that they've received. And that judgment doesn't have to be one that came out of magistrate court. It can come out of state court or superior court. I talked about our pretrial division, who handles the supervision of people released on bond. We also have a mediation division, and that mediation division handles cases within the small claims court and the eviction court, also known as dispossessories. So there's a large group that help us, including our administrative staff and bailiffs who come over to assist in our day-to-day court operations.
Well, I also know, too, having been involved in the system for a long time, you know, the Cobb motto around here of doing more with less is certainly practiced in your court. It's one of the, staff-wise, you have you and one other full-time judge, and
Right.
that's it, and some part-time folks. So yeah, you all do an amazing yeoman's duty for those type of folks. I also know, too, if I remember correctly, the Superior Court judges have not only shown tremendous confidence in you by appointing you as our Chief Magistrate, but they've also given you additional duties on top of what you do as Chief Magistrate. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Explain to the folks the interesting court that you run in addition to your duties as Chief Magistrate.
Yes, Cobb has a narcotics unit called the Marietta Cobb Smyrna unit. We usually refer to it in short around here as MCS court. So cases that are made through those agencies will come to that MCS courtroom, and I do run that courtroom. Now, the magistrate court itself does not have jurisdiction over jury trials, except in those bad check cases or in ordinance cases that come before us. Well, not jury trials, trials to completion. However, in the MCS court, I do handle matters from arraignment through jury trial. So the disposition of those cases are under me as through designation from the Superior Court judges. So that runs 2 weeks out of the month in addition to the other courts that are handled in magistrate court. Another court that we handle are temporary protective orders. So when people request family violence, temporary protective orders, or stalking orders, the senior judges will handle the first portion or the application portion of those cases. But once it goes to an actual hearing, then I'll handle those cases to conclusion.
So in other words, you're also, besides the Chief Magistrate, you're sworn in as what we call an assisting Superior Court judge, and you're performing those functions as someone that's helping Superior Court.
Yes,
is that
sir.
Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's interesting. Let me go back just a little bit, if I could, something I just thought of I wanted to make sure the viewers were aware of. Obviously, sometimes the criminal justice system lags a little bit behind technology-wise as to the private world, but I know we're doing much better. You all have a really interesting system over there where if a police officer's way down in Precinct 5 or somewhere way out in West Cobb or South Cobb, and he or she doesn't want to, or we don't want them to take them off the street very long to come all the way to Marietta, do you all have a system where they can talk to a judge and get a warrant without coming to the courthouse in person?
We do. We have an EWI system, or electronic warrant interface system. So our magistrate is able to view that officer on the camera in front of them. So it's a software system that includes the video and audio interface. Each precinct and Kennesaw State University and the Sheriff's Office and the jail have these computer setups. So they can call into that computer setup and give their application through that software, and the magistrate will swear them in, take the information, and can issue the warrant from wherever their location is, and they can print out that original to go ahead and serve or do what law enforcement needs to do with it. So we've definitely been able to handle the concern of having officers taken off the street and wait in a line, in essence, to get the warrant that they're requesting at that time.
Well, that's a great program. We're very fortunate to have it here.
Absolutely.
And as you said a moment ago, it keeps our beat officers on their beats and working these cases and answering calls. So, well, Judge, thank you in two ways. Thank you, obviously, for joining us today on Gavel to Gavel. We appreciate you being our guest, but most importantly, thank you for the job you do for this county. You and I know each other, and I know you
Yes.
well, and I know the quality of person you are and the integrity you have, and what you've brought to the Cobb Magistrate Court, and we're very blessed to have you there, so thank you for the job you do there.
And I thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching this episode of Gavel to Gavel. We appreciate you viewing us and watching us, and would ask that you stay tuned as we film future episodes and educate our viewers and citizens about the criminal justice system in Cobb County. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. We'll see you soon, and stay safe. Thank you.
I first started skating with my friend. He had an extra board, and then he just gave it to me, and I've been skating ever since. Well, when I don't land a trick and I have my mind set on something, and I'm not getting what I want, I just keep going for it until I get it right. My mom, she didn't go to college, so she wants me to experience that whole thing, and so I could end up getting like a good job. I think to get into college, I'll have to be determined, just like when I want to get a new trick, and skating's helped me realize I've got what it takes.
In 1990, in Severn, Maryland, the daughter of a clergyman was discovered by a music industry insider while pumping gas at a service station. The odds of her getting signed and spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of this former church choir singer going on to sell 40 million records? 1 in 15 million. The odds of the same woman winning 6 Grammy Awards and starring in 2 Broadway plays? 1 in 75 million. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.